I'm the director of the Bulldog House Museum. So on behalf of our staff and the owner organization, the Colonial in Missouri, welcome. I want to thank Sandra Cavish, she's the director of tourism for the St. Genevieve Welcome Center, and she let us move over here. If we had done what we originally planned, which would have been to hold this in the salon of the Bulldog House, you would all be frozen and you would have said goodbye, we're not staying. So grateful to Sandra and these guys, Mike, Artie, Dave from the Mars Company American Heritage Chocolate Division flew in from the East Coast yesterday, and they spent the afternoon with us today training my volunteers and staff. Some of them are back here for the hands-on part, and we're very excited. We learned an awful lot just in a couple hours. So I think you're going to be informed and learn some new things. We know that chocolate was part of our history here in St. Genevieve. I can document it at least from the writings of Henry Brackenridge. He was the little 7-year-old boy who came from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because his father wanted him to learn how to speak French. And he stayed for 3 years at Yvonne's house, right across from Station 2. So he, when he was an adult after the Louisiana Purchase, he came back to the area, and then he wrote a book of his reflections, my reflections of people and places in the West. And he described a meal he had the first night on the boat coming to St. Genevieve on the Ohio River. And it was a piece of fatty meat, a very hard piece of bread, and a cup of chocolate. And he said that the meal was so disgusting, remember he's 7, that he threw the whole thing overboard. And then he discovered there weren't any other options, and he learned to eat what was served. So at least from a documentary point of view, we know people were familiar with chocolate. We also know that Thomas Jefferson predicted that chocolate might take the upper hand to wine at some point. So it fits our period, and we're going to learn a lot more. Thank you guys for coming. Thanks to Mars Company for coming. This is at their expense, and thank you for coming.
But there's different kind of cocoa beans, right?
Correct.
They don't all taste the same.
There's actually, Shapiro. We have pretty much the godfather of chocolate is one of the scientists that works for Mars. He can actually taste cocoa beans. He can tell you where in the world they came from.
Cocoa beans and stuff.
Cocoa beans are very much the same as coffee beans. And, different regions have different flavors, and a lot of that's just the soil composition, the humidity, the ecosystem that they're in. A cocoa bean from Nicaragua is going to have a very different flavor profile than one from Ghana.
So are there plantations? Plantations?
Yeah.
You make it sound like they're all hand-picked, like do they have like big operations?
This is not an industrial operation. These are, for the most part, family farms. That it's a family operation, and these like Mike was saying, this is a machete, and they're cutting everything by hand. Very labor intensive.
Is it used to be every year?
There is a crop every year.
So does Mars have special places that you go buy your cocoa beans from? Or?
We have co-ops that we deal with.
So somebody goes out and just buys them from a bunch of farmers, because you got to be buying these beans like all the time.
We have buyers that actually go out and they'll buy once a year on a
From
commodity
small
level.
villages and just from the...
They'll, yep.
Mars is working very closely with the farmers, different farmers to try to help them, to prosper their farms.
Yeah, to help them grow
And
yield.
try
Are they
to-
paying, I mean, for what I pay for chocolate, for a piece of good chocolate, and what are they getting, like 4 or 5 cents?
They're getting paid fair market value.
Are they?
Yes. Mars is participating in the fair trade program for chocolate.
Okay.
A close friend of mine, another Mars associate, actually just came back from Ghana, and we sent him for 2 weeks to go over, teach basic math, social sciences, things like that, build schools. So it isn't a go in, grab the chocolate and leave.
But they're working, Mars is working with the farmers to help them to prosper their farm. Because if the farms start to disappear, cocoa is going to disappear. Then a lot of people are going to be unhappy.
You were saying this afternoon that there's a big progress in the Central American cocoa.
Yeah, we don't source our cocoa from Central America and South America.
There was a disease called witch's broom that killed a lot of the crops in South America. That's why we don't buy from there. But they still grow cocoa down there. I mean, they are still growing crops there, but the main source of it, like you said, is from the coast of Ghana. So.
The problem with witch's broom is it's not protectable until it's harvest time. So if you invest all this time and money into the crop and you don't know if it's going to be viable until it's time to produce.
I thought maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it was a threat that we're going to run out of cocoa, was that?
That's what.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now, the gentleman I was referring to, Dr. Shapiro, he's one of our associates. He actually spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, this prime cocoa fertile areas. And part of us going to Ghana and going to Ivory as far as education is also educating farmers on current technologies that can benefit them and produce a more bountiful crop. So it's recognizing that Central and South America aren't as viable and seeing where else in the world it can be utilized.
I'm just curious now that the witch's broom, does that kill the tree or does it taint the fruit?
I'm not sure. I think I've seen pictures like, yeah, the pod, and they cut it open, it's just it's black. I mean,
So they don't know until they...
Yeah.
So on average, how much does it take to make an actual chocolate bar or whatever?
So it's funny you asked that. So it takes one of these to make a bag of M&Ms.
To make what?
A bag of
One
M&Ms.
bag.
What size bag?
You see at your local register.
Okay, by the register, not
Ask them how
the
they know about M&M.
Not the 64.
So how do we know about M&Ms?
Well, we
Well, you gotta be
So we do this on the side from ours. Our regular jobs, him and I, all three of us work at the Hackettstown, at the Hackettstown site. He works in the national office side of it. Him and I work in the plant. We actually make M&Ms for a
Trust me, we love
my
our
job's also
So how are the trees grown? Are they grown from seedlings or?
You start out as a regular, you would go down and get a regular little tree, a little sapling, and that's where they start.
And
And it takes about 3 years, 3 or 4 years for them to start to actually produce plants.
Okay, so we were discussing this earlier today. Something that's near and dear to me. Prior to coming to Mars, and I'm just going to college, I served 8 years in the Marines, and one thing that was always kind of cool to me was that M&Ms were actually invented for the Marine Corps. They were invented in 1943 during World War II, and when soldiers would go off to Europe, they would be provided with a bar of chocolate, not from us. And what's that?
Was it the age?
Yes. Yeah.
I like it.
So what happened was, at the time, Hershey controlled the chocolate. It was during rationing, so Hershey had control of all the chocolate in the United States. And they were giving chocolate bars to the Marines, but the Marines were in the South Pacific as opposed to the Army in Northern Europe. Chocolate in the South Pacific melts. So the idea was to create some kind of chocolate that Marines can join the South Pacific that wouldn't turn into a melted mess. So the M&M was born. And not a lot of people know this, but the second M&M, the first M stands for Mars, the second M stands for Murray. Murray was the CEO of Hershey at the time, and they brokered a deal that we'll give you chocolate if you put our name on the product. So that's what the second M&M is.
The only thing is, they always advertise as the chocolate doesn't melt in your hand, but that candy did.
We just actually
We talked about that, so don't do it all at once, but if you call the number on the back of M&M's, it comes into my office. And I had a woman a couple months back call in, and I think I talked to her for like 10 or 15 minutes, and she was complaining that the M&M's melted in her hand. In our defense, we have not used that advertising since the 1960s. But everybody remembers that advertising. So it was good advertising, but if you hold an M&M in your hand long enough, it will melt.
Do you make a white
I
chocolate?
believe we did.
Yeah, I mean, it's seasonal.
So we did a seasonal one, yeah.
Yeah, there's all sorts of varieties that come out on the season. Halloween last year we had candy corn flavored M&Ms. The mint, we have the mint ones. We have raspberry. So my favorite's dark chocolate M&Ms. Yeah.
So what about the different percentages of cocoa in the chocolate and the antioxidants? Is that true? Is it something we just wish was true?
Chocolate is a very healthy food.
Okay.
In moderation. The higher the cacao amount, it does have the higher the antioxidants, and antioxidants in the bloodstream fight free radicals. So there is a health benefit. If you eat 10 pounds of it, it's not going to fight it any more than 6 ounces, but there are health benefits to eating it.
They recommend a minimum of 70% if you're doing health benefits.
It's a lot the same.
acquired taste.
It's a lot the same as red wine. Red wine and dark chocolate share a lot of the same antioxidant profiles.
Part of our job while we're working the lines, we actually have to eat the cake.
So where's the nearest
Application.
Plant?
Nearest plant to you guys would be Chicago.
Speaker.
It's a Topeka.
Topeka,
They're about
Kansas.
the same.
Well, I don't know what's closer, Speaker or Chicago. Chicago.
We actually mapped it out.
But they make ice cream in Chicago too, so you know that. And one of these little pods contains
About 30
what?
beans.
35 to 40.
So 35 to 40 of these beans are in one pod. So 35 to 40 of these beans make one bag of M&Ms.
So you can imagine how many we go through a day.
So if it's seasonal, you just buy as much as you think you're going to need, or?
The buyers buy in quantity, so they'll set a fixed price and they'll buy. And some of that kind of comes back to my job. I in logistics, and some of it's forecasting and planning. So it's forecasting how much we're going to
Do
need.
you buy the actual bean that's laying there on the ground, you don't buy the pod, or do you buy the pod?
When we buy it, it comes in burlap bags that are already dried out. So it's
And
just
so like, it would be
buy-
dry, it's like any bean, you could dry it as long as.
yeah. We buy this.
And if you could use that bean 3 years down the road.
No, these do have a shelf life. When I say we buy a commodity, I'll say that our buyers might go out in September or October. and say, we're gonna buy this year's crop, and they negotiate whatever they do, and then they'll sell it as the crop is harvested. And then they'll ship it within that calendar year.
But how?
Because this will dry out.
It will dry out.
Once the process, they can hold the actual chocolate on a shelf life longer than the raw material.
So once they're fully grown, then they cut them open, they would extract the beans from the pulp, then they would lay them down, and let them ferment over banana leaves, or even like hoops or bits. So once they're all dried out, fermented, now during the fermentation process, the actual the pulp actually helps add flavor to that as it's drying out. So once it's all dried out, they'll then roast the beans. So they'll take the pan like so and just roast them. And as they're being roasted, you're gonna hear like this crackling sound. And as it's crackling, what that is, the nib is actually expanding and contracting as it's being cooked. So you want that because that's gonna help separate it from the shell. Once it's roasted, they then take and they do a process called winnowing. So this is just a winnowing basket. So just a basket with some beans in it. And then they just shake it like so. And as they're shaking it, the shells will lift off and the wind will actually take it and blow it away. And the shells will actually become fertilizers for the ground. And then you're left with your beans. So once they're separated, this is how they look. This is your nibs, and this is your shells. So they're separated like so.
Do they use a shell for anything?
Fertilizer. Yep, those get used as fertilizer. Okay, so at this point, they would take the nibs, and chocolatier would grind it down like this. And at this point, you'll already get an aroma from it, so it starts smelling like chocolate. So some of the staff today actually got to smell that. You guys are welcome to come up later on, and we'll show you all that to demonstrate.
What we're showing you at this point is how cocoa would have been made in the 1700s,
During Colonial period.
earlier than that.
So at this point, then take the nibs and you sprinkle them on this metate. So,
And that's just a hot rock, lava rock,
Yes.
right?
so what he's doing here is he's mixing he's actually pulverizing the chocolate right now. So as he's melting it down, yeah, it's just like so as he's mixing this, now this is a rough job here. This is a whole day's worth of work to do this back during the colonial periods. It would take a whole day's worth of work just to fill the pan. Okay, so as he's doing that, he's adding spices like nutmeg, annatto for coloring, orange peel, cinnamon, add a little bit of salt, a little bit of anise or anise, I already know how to pronounce it, everybody's got the before you're saying it. A little bit of vanilla, and a little bit of red pepper for some bite. And some sugar. And then you add all these spices to your metate, and you mix it all in and melt it down, and it would all drip into that pan there until you got a full solid block. All right? So after you get a full solid block, you cut them down into the smaller blocks. They would wrap them in like parchment paper, and then they would take it to your local apothecary, and they would then either barter for other things, maybe some wheat, eggs, or they would sell it to the apothecary. At this point, they'll take the powder and they'll add it to the chocolate bar. When they add it to the chocolate bar, they'll mix this with either water or even brandy they used back then. And then they would take it and they would mix it like so with their stirrer. Now, a stirrer looks like this, and it's actually called a Malinale. So they would take it and they would just simply stir it like so. Now, there are different styles of Malinales. So and each one has different characteristics. Depending on the design, they'll have a better froth. Like if there's holes in them, some of them will have holes in them to add air through it, so that way it makes a better froth. So these are your stirs there. So this is a chocolate pot. And the difference between this and a coffee pot is your spouts towards the bottom. So So that way, when you're developing that froth, when you go to pour it, you're not getting it into your cup. So unlike a beer that you want to have the froth, or chocolate drink, you want the liquid.